All right, let's talk about something I bet a lot of you have run into. You get really good with one cloud provider. You know all their tools inside and out, and then boom, the project changes. Now you need to pull in a service from a different cloud. It can feel like hitting a brick wall. Today, we're going to talk about how to smash through that wall with an awesome tool called Terraform. So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at what I'm calling the single cloud wall and why it's such a common headache. Then we'll bring in our hero, Terraform, the universal tool. We'll get into how it works with its declarative approach. After that, things get really interesting with something called CDKTF, which is kind of the best of both worlds. And finally, we'll wrap up by seeing what this all means for you when it comes to building legit multi-cloud applications.
Okay, let's dive right in. And we're going to start with a story that probably sounds way too familiar to a lot of you developers out there.
So picture this. You're working in a single cloud, maybe AWS, and you're using their native tools, like the AWS Cloud Development Kit, the CDK. And you know what? You're probably pretty happy. I mean, why wouldn't you be? These tools are awesome. They give you these high-level, pre-made components, what the CDK calls L2 and L3 constructs, that let you build out some seriously complex stuff, like an entire serverless backend with just a few lines of code. It feels like you have superpowers. But here's the catch, right? All that magic, it's totally locked into one ecosystem. The second your boss says, hey, we need to spin up this database on Google Cloud, or let's integrate with this new service on Azure, your AWS tool just kind of shrugs. It can't help you. You've officially hit that single cloud wall. You're locked in. And that is exactly where Terraform enters the picture. Think of it as the universal translator for infrastructure. It was built from day one to live in a world with lots of different clouds and services. And if you put them side by side, the difference is crystal clear. The AWS CDK is, well, all about AWS. It's fantastic at it. But Terraform's biggest strength is that it just doesn't care who the provider is. AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, you name it. It gives you one consistent way to work with all of them. And when I say it doesn't care, I really mean it. It's not just about the big cloud providers. Terraform has this whole ecosystem of things called providers. They're like plugins that let it talk to almost anything. You want to set up a Datadog monitor or manage your GitHub repos? You can do all of that right alongside your cloud stuff in the very same code. So, how on earth does Terraform pull this off so reliably across so many different systems? Well, it all comes down to a really powerful core idea, a philosophy, really. It uses something called a declarative approach. And what that means is you don't write a long list of step-by-step commands, no. Instead, you just describe what you want the final result to look like. You describe the destination, and you let Terraform worry about the journey. This analogy is just perfect. Think about it. Giving step-by-step directions is a pain, and if you miss one step, you're lost. But what do we do in real life? We just punch the address into our GPS. We tell it where we want to go, and it figures out the best way to get there from wherever we happen to be right now. That's exactly what Terraform does for your infrastructure. This all boils down to the super simple, super predictable three-step dance. First, you code. You write down that end state you want. Then, you plan. This is the magic step. Terraform shows you exactly what it's going to do, what it'll create, what it'll change, what it'll delete. No surprises. And once you like what you see, you apply, and Terraform makes it reality. Now, the secret sauce that makes all this possible is something called the state file. You can just think of it as Terraform's memory. It keeps a perfect record of everything it's ever built for you. So, every time you run a plan, it just compares your code to its memory and instantly knows the difference. It knows precisely what needs to change to make reality match your code. Okay, so we've got these two worlds, right? On one hand, the easy developer-friendly experience of something like AWS CDK. On the other, the incredible multi-cloud power of Terraform. For a while, you kind of had to pick a side. But what if you didn't have to? What if you could take all of that incredible manage anything, anywhere power that Terraform gives you and smash it together with the thing we developers love most, writing in a real programming language with functions and loops and classes and all that good stuff we get from CDK? Well, guess what? You can. That's exactly what CDK for Terraform, or CDKF, is all about. It's a bridge between those two worlds. It lets you write your infrastructure in a language like TypeScript or Python, and then it automatically translates that into the standard Terraform configuration that does all the heavy lifting.
So what's the big deal here? Well, you get to use languages you already love to manage infrastructure for literally any provider in the whole Terraform ecosystem. Now, gotta be honest, there's a small trade-off. Because CDKTF has to be a universal translator, it often deals with the more basic building blocks, what we call L1 constructs. This just means your code might be a little more detailed. So for instance, where the AWS CDK might magically create a security policy behind the scenes for you, with CDKTF, you're gonna write that policy out yourself, explicitly. It's a little more code for a whole lot more control.
Okay, let's zoom out and pull all of this together. What does this actually mean for you and the stuff you're building every day?
Well, it means you get one single, unified code base to rule them all. Your AWS buckets, your Google Cloud functions, your GitHub repo settings, it's all in one place, written in one language. And since it's just code, you can do amazing things, like spin up a perfect copy of your entire production environment for testing just by changing a single variable. Talk about consistency.
And this is why it really, truly matters. This is about freedom. It's about having the power to pick the absolute best service for the job, no matter which company offers it. It lets you build applications that are stronger, more flexible, and way more powerful, because you're no longer stuck playing in just one sandbox.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. Once those walls between all the different clouds and services completely disappear, and you can connect absolutely anything to anything else, what are you going to build? Thanks for tuning in.